Do you guys have day jobs or is this your whole gig?
This is my full-time job, and it has been since the pandemic started.
I was freelance writing. I've pared it way back because this has been doing well. So yeah, no, this is just about it.
Wow, that is I just want to hold the phone and say that is awesome.
Keep it nerdy. Keep it real nerdy. Nerdpreneur, you know I love my work. Life's a game, so I'ma take my turn. Nerds deserve to put their passion first, so let them rap a verse so they can all be heard.
I am a small independent board game designer.
I wanted to make props for D&D.
Correct. I'm a breeder of tarantulas, importing tarantulas and some other critters.
I am a harpist. I do mainly Celtic harp, video game songs, songs from nerdy TV shows.
I connected my love for close-up magic with being a scare actor.
Nerdpreneur, you know I love my work.
Welcome to Nerdpreneur, where we have fun conversations with nerds making money with their nerdy passion. And as always, I am joined by my co-host, Frank.
Hello.
And today we have some very special guests on, actually. And they are two founding members of a company called Only Crits.
Yes, so my name is Eric Burton, and I'm one of the co-founders of Only Crits.
Hi, I'm Rory Hoffman, and shockingly also a co-founder of Only Crits.
And if you haven't already guessed, these guys are dice manufacturers, well, dice distributors. You've told me you're kind of like a one-stop shop for all your dice and adventure accessory needs. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So I basically handle most of the dice side of things, and then Rory handles the adventure side of things. And then we thought like, well, let's come together and give both to the consumer and give them what they want. I think the point was for a new player to be able to get an adventure and a dice set, be able to play the game not knowing anything and have a module to start, and then use the module and kind of build their own homebrew off of that. So it's not a full 20 level adventure. It's just a one shot to get you started.
Are you looking to introduce the game to more and more people, expand it to people that have never played D&D? Is that sort of the idea with having it focus on one shots?
Yeah, I would say yes. The idea being the easier it is to play, the easier it is to present to friends. We don't have too many filters on distributing our adventures, which ideally allows people to send adventures and be like, hey, do you want to run this one? Have you played? Can you run this one? And it going from one person sort of having to accumulate all of the stuff in order to play D&D to being able to distribute easily to a bunch of different people being able to play D&D.
I'm immediately fascinated with how the two of you brought this together. Did you two know each other already?
Yeah, we've been friends since elementary school. I think I've known Roy since I was 5.
Whoa.
You guys go way back.
Yes, for a long time.
So could you tell me, what is your nerdy passion and how did the two of you really discover it?
Well, mine is mostly video games, I think. Rory was the one that introduced me to Dungeons and Dragons, and that was right around when the pandemic started. Everyone's at home, and Rory kind of reached out to me and a few of our friends and was like, hey, I have this game, and I always wanted to play it. I played a one-shot with a few friends a couple of years ago. Didn't really know what was going on at all. I didn't have a character sheet even. I was just role-playing. So when Rory brought up the idea, hey, I can Dungeon Master, I was like, yes, please, let's get this going right away. And that was in March of 2020, so it was right at the start.
I mean, honestly, it took me 3 tries to get into D&D, partially because I was finishing up school the first time, sort of realized right near when I was about to graduate, I was like, I should be playing D&D. This sounds exactly like what I want to do, and just didn't have the time or understanding of, you don't need the whole rule book to start playing D&D, and I kind of thought you did. So I saw 350 pages, I read the first 20, and I was like, I'm going to leave this for the moment.
What do you actually enjoy about playing D&D that maybe was different from, say, playing video games?
Friends, definitely.
Yeah, it's a social game.
You just get together with 7 of your best friends. You sit around a table, you make jokes, you relax, and you also catch up, especially if people are busy, they have jobs, they get to meet up. That in itself could be the game to me, just hanging out once a week. And especially during the pandemic, getting on Discord and playing is what we did at the start. And then eventually when things wound down a little bit, we met up in person. And I think I fell in love with it more then when you could have like side role play conversations. When you're playing on Discord, it's hard to talk over someone, basically impossible. So, but in person, you can kind of have these little side conversations that really develops a role play.
Definitely. I think that when the pandemic hit, my friends and I just started playing 3 times a week, maybe, because there was like nothing else to do, like literally nothing else to do. So we just started playing like 3 different dungeon masters, 3 different games, 3 times. So we all kind of really got into D&D during that time period, mastering that like virtual setup with it. And I think that's probably when you came into our games, actually, Frank, too, was around that time.
Yeah, I thought you guys were a bunch of slackers that were like playing this game D&D like some chumps. I was I was so put off by how they treated it. But I came to realize over time actually like this is a great way to enjoy it. It's very relaxed. I came from I started playing with a bunch of theater nerds. So we
Oh.
were very hardcore about our accents, about our commitment to our characters and our role play. And these guys don't some of them Chris will do an accent, but most of the time the guys don't. And it's always just like
Our guys like rolling dice. That's
they're
what
like
we like doing, okay? They like it crunchy and they like to basically hit things. It was a very, very cathartic experience playing D&D with our friends every week, 3 times a week, and just like crushing
yeah.
a bunch of stuff. So
I basically didn't stick around for very long. And then I came back later, like a year later when I realized actually those guys were onto something.
well, speaking of dice, when did the decision to start like selling dice come into the equation for you two?
Dice would be something like it's a game I love, right? And this is just when I was getting started. So a few months in, it's a game I love. I have so much passion for it. And I'm doing business, which I also love doing. So it's not like I'm, running a business that I don't want to be running, or I want to be running it, but just for the money, or like there's only half a passion there. Whereas this was like when that idea first came to me in September, it was September 9th. It was the day I had the idea, 2020. And I just remember it kind of exploding in my mind and being like, man, I could sell dice. With Rory, he could make adventures and it would be perfect. And I was just sitting there kind of like, and it just came out of nowhere. I just realized I was like, wow, like it's the best of both worlds. I have such a high passion for this and I can do what I love in terms of work, combine them together, right? And then you get to have your cake and eat it too. That's when the idea sparked. So I called Rory like instantly that day and we talked for 2 hours about the first adventure, how we were going to make it work, like when the launch date was going to be, and all these details, and just it was such a weird feeling because it wasn't like I was thinking about it for like weeks on end. Like, should I do it? Should I? It just came out of nowhere one day, and the next day I was started, and I just started working on it, started designing the website, and a month later we launched with one adventure.
I'm curious, like when you guys got that idea and you started immediately on it, have you always been like an action taker like that, where you get an idea and you start on it? Or was this because you were so passionate and you were aligned in your passions that you all of a sudden took action?
There's only so much willpower you can have to do something you don't want to do. And so I can do something for a week, even if I don't really want to do it, but I think it's good for me. So when you start, you're kind of all hyped up on this willpower and you're ready to go. And then after a week, that's really when the test starts, is to see if you can stay consistent. I think that because of the passion, I was able to stay consistent over the last 2 years or year and a half. Generally, though, I think I really like to get after it immediately. And then I just slowly teeter off in terms of willpower. And then that's when, yeah, like I said, the passion kind of holds you up and lets you continue because, you're not doing something you don't like.
That's such a nerdpreneur story. That is what one of the reasons we created this podcast was to elevate these types of stories where someone decided to pursue a passion and really go after it. And that turned into something that became a full business. But hey,
Bringing it back to you, only Chris, with the adventures that you started. So, Rory, you were building these homebrew adventures for a while because I'm on your website right now and you guys have a bunch of homebrew adventures here available for purchase. How did you start making these is really what I'm getting at.
For that first session that I ran the Lost Mines of Phandelver. I don't know if I've ever said that
Fandelver,
loud.
yeah.
Phandelver, yeah. Um, And then pretty much since then, I've homebrewed adventures for better or worse. But I didn't actually start writing them down until October of 2020 when we got the business going. Yeah, I mean it's interesting because we're trying, like, it's been a conscious effort to try to fill out our library of adventures because we don't
Right.
want to have a nice variety of adventures to choose from.
I kind of want to focus a little bit on your process because I mean, I know we're going to have listeners that, they are like, I want to get started, but there's this challenge, there's this hurdle. I just don't know these things. And I'm going to come from it a perspective of where I am. So, personally, I haven't made them look this nice, first off. They start out in a Word doc, and I do some formatting so that it's easier for me to read and follow what I'm doing. But then it's kind of, I throw my hands up like, cool, I have this 12-page document that's got 3 chapters in it. It's probably 3 sessions. And now I don't know what to do. So what do you do from that point to just kind of create a PDF out of it?
It's relatively straightforward nowadays. It was a bit of a finding process, but I always write the overview first because I find that the hardest part is the plot line because you have to have a through
Right.
line, and then the adventure itself follows with your checks and your combat and your descriptions. And once you have that document, um, we use a program which I'm always going to plug because they're so great and they're free and they're okay with you using it commercially, called the Home Brewery. So that lets you make it look good. So I have to attribute much of it looking good to the home brewery. Yeah, I mean, then it's filling in the other stuff, which is maps are always handy, and I don't always make a map. My maps are very simple, but maps people love, and I also tend to try to have a unique stat block for a monster. Those things often come at the end because I can change what I've written and switch things up. I write the overview. I try to fill in the stuff that initially plot out, and then I hope for the best, honestly.
Wow. Okay. That sounds pretty, like you said, straightforward.
Do,
Yeah,
do-
it's not that fancy.
where do you get your ideas from, or where do you get inspiration to create an adventure?
I mean, it's tough because inspiration it's one of those things that's always creatively the question mark. And of course, there's not a single source of inspiration. I wish there was somewhere I could just go and get inspiration, but it's a myriad of things. I do my best to be consciously reading a lot of fantasy because inspiration comes from there pretty often, and watching other D&D campaigns and whatnot. I can't remember the quote. There's something about if you're writing same thing in a different style, it's plagiarism. But if you're taking from a bunch of different sources and putting it into your work, then it's
Right.
not. There's a lot of that going on where I have an idea from a book, and I can't, obviously I'm not going to write out just the plot line of the book, but I love taking a small part and then figuring out how that small part can turn into something more than it just was.
There's a podcast I'm listening to, and they totally reference a part from The Rock. They're trying to get onto this island that's a supermax, and the DM starts explaining that there's actually a furnace system that'll dump the trash into the ocean after it's been put through the furnace. And the players are like, "You're talking like The Rock," and he's like, "Wait, what? Like The Rock? Like, oh my god, it totally is." Sometimes it's a subconscious
Yeah.
inspiration. He's like, that was not intentional, but I came up with exactly that movie.
And I mean, some of the stuff is like that is cool. Being subconsciously inspired by The
Yeah.
Rock is cool. One of our adventures, the one called A Foul Endeavor, is I don't know if I should be ashamed to say this, but it's almost entirely based off that thing. Would you rather fight a horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
That sounds funny.
Yeah, I mean I was like it's D&D. I bet I can build a duck-sized horse and turn it into something bigger.
I want to keep that duck. That would be a
Yeah.
great mount.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite out of these adventures that you really enjoyed playing or writing?
It's like picking children. But that being said, I did pour more work than I should have into the Dagger Dice of Bismuth. I wrote a whole legend for it, and it's longer than it needs to be. But I really like the Dagger Dice of Bismuth personally, and A Foul Endeavor is just it's funny, so
Nice.
I gotta shout it out.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what are some of these things you do consistently or that you needed to do consistently to really build?
Yeah. No, totally. So you want to, for me personally, like I always make sure I check my email and like go through the orders every day, no matter what. Even if that's like the only thing that I am doing that day, I always try and do at least that. And the reason is because you want to have some framework or keep it on your mind, right? Like keep it like in the front. You're not forgetting about the things you have to do that are important. And a part of that is stress in a way, right? Like a part of it's like, hey, I've got a thing I need to take care of. But stress can be good if you get it behind you and you get it pushing you forward to your goals, right? Put my stress behind me instead of in front of me. So it's not holding me back, it's pushing me forward.
So checking the orders on a day-to-day basis, definitely something that you're doing to even keep that mind on top of it. What about for you, Rory, with like the adventures? Are there like daily things you do to keep yourself motivated in writing or to create these things or for the business that way?
Yeah, so consistency is hard with writing because there are absolutely days where I want to write and there's nothing in my head. But having distinct goals has been key, and that's something that I have struggled to do myself. And it's like you were talking about having a partner. Absolutely, knowing Eric needs an adventure at the end of the month to send on a product page has been great because it's okay if I don't write for a day. It's not okay if I don't write for a month or a month and a half. And that not being a question, it being a necessity that I write something by the end of the month has been huge. The other thing I found is just when we were starting out and we wanted to sell adventures and dice, and I was in charge of the adventures, and we had one, was daunting. So the only thing that I've found to stop it being daunting is doing it consistently. Like you're never going to sit down and write 12 adventures or a 20 level campaign in
Right.
a week or a month even. Like that will never happen. So the only thing that stops it being terrifying is doing it consistently. And for me consistently has been a month, and that's been fine.
I did want to ask you, what is the schedule? Like, how many adventures do you try to write in, say, a year?
So right now the schedule is once a month, one adventure per month written.
Whoa.
And it's very doable because they're one shots. If I was writing if I was writing 20 level campaigns, it would be once every 2 years.
Yeah.
But no, we're trying to do one shots, and they're not all one shots. We do sometimes I'm inspired and I'll get a 3 level or 5 level. There is more content creation than I was expecting to have to do that I do, which has been great. I mean, super fun to write. Like
Yeah.
one of the things I do is write emails with these free app like an NPC and an item and a monster stat block, and that's been great because those are weekly. So that's again speaking to consistency. It's like it's a little bit shorter of a time frame. It's great for again inspiration. If I'm forced to write a monster stat block, I'm like, oh, this is actually really cool. I now have a villain for a one shot, and I can get an adventure going. But yeah, I mean, once per month. That slowed down recently, and this is a bit of a preview, which is fun. But I am trying to develop a longer document for like a world.
Ooh. Okay. So are these adventures all taking place in a homebrew world? The same world?
Not all of them, because I wasn't prepared enough when we started releasing adventures, but
Gotcha.
most of them now that I have organized myself are taking place in one world, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
It's a whole other beast. There's a certain formula with an adventure they get used to, and then now you're trying to write a world, and it's like I don't know what's supposed to go into this.
Yeah. So I've done a fair bit of world building. At least it feels like. It feels, I mean, when I think about the number of hours I've put into it, it's like, oh my God, and the different homebrew mechanics that you build,
Yeah.
it's really satisfying when you get to see that happen, start to come to fruition. You're like, I didn't really know where to start. I kind of
Mhm.
started somewhere. And right now, do you have a place that you are choosing to begin with when you build out either your world, or maybe it's the same for building out an adventure? Is there some place you start with?
Well, for me, um, I was gonna say I'm a nerd, and then realized that was the whole thing. Um, but I like narrative and I like the historical aspects of world building. So I always start with sort of the story of the world, and that tends to lead me into the theme. And I think theme in D&D worlds is more important than in other stories often. That's something I'm still sort of wrangling with, is I think the theme of the world I've got going on so far is not quite strong enough. But I
Mhm.
now that sort of the historical background of this fake world that I've created is there, I think it can come around. And then once the sort of story history stuff is ready, then I go back and I can fill in the blanks.
I find having a pantheon, I don't know, remember where I heard it, but having a pantheon in the beginning really helps to set the tone.
I heard that too.
It was probably a YouTuber
Yeah,
somewhere that gave
maybe
that
Matt
idea.
Mercer or something.
Yeah, or, well, it's Matt Colwell?
Colville.
Colville, yeah.
Colville?
He talks fast.
He does, and I still speed him up.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, "Okay, these are long videos, man, like, let's do this."
It's funny to listen to Matt Colville just be like rocking through what he's talking about, and it like the tone, like the exact note that he's on never really changes. It's
Yeah, it's
just
true.
the exact same note the whole time. Anyway, I don't want to piss off Matt Colville, so we might cut that one.
I get mesmerized by the shaking of his hair. That's really what gets me. When he's like he gets really animated, and then the hair just, like, wiggles a bit, and you're like, "Oh, man, I am, like, hypnotized by something."
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
the hair.
totally.
I wanted to ask about the dice making process a little. We don't need to get into the weeds too much. But I don't know a lot about it, and I'm curious primarily what your process is for creating them and where they are made.
Yeah, for sure. No, so we work with suppliers overseas. I basically reach out to agents and suppliers overseas in China, and I found two really good ones in September and October. And it's the same two suppliers that we've been working with to this day. So one of the suppliers is all the sharp edge dice, all the sharp edge sets that you see on the site. They do that side of things. And then all the other dice are done by the other supplier. And so we've been working with them in a kind of close knit system and talking every day about new orders and what's out of stock, what needs to be done. But in terms of the manufacturing, that isn't an area of expertise I have, so I do need assistance for that process. I would love to be amazing at everything, but unfortunately, I can't be.
Wouldn't we all?
Yeah, so that is one area where yeah, we basically outsource that, and we have a team that does that for us, and they've been really good to us, worked with us since the beginning, got us set up with the amazing dice bags we have.
One of the things I really like about your product too is the way it comes. Just like you have this lovely box that you open and it says only crits on the top there. And it's just like, it's a very nice setup when you receive them. Even the one, because I've now got a number of your dice sets. I have the ones that are the hollow dice sets. Because I remember when you guys only had the plastic ones, like you only had polymers at first, I think. And then you then
Yeah.
had metal ones. And then you started to expand beyond that. Now you have hollow dice with like little dragons in them that are awesome.
And stone
There's
ones too.
stone dice. I had to get the stone dice too. I just
Wow.
yeah, they're awesome. So there's so much expansion that has happened along the way now. How do you decide on like adding new products? And are there new products on the way that we can look forward to?
Yes, we are planning to add new products, definitely. The products are kind of like a slow roll in all the time. And how do you decide? I mean, that's difficult, right? Like I've always tried to find just beautiful sets, and there hasn't been like a specific like, oh, it has to be metal or it has to be hollow or anything like, because we've sold all different sorts of stuff. I do like for them to be high quality. That's one of like the main thing is, so it's definitely customer satisfaction, right? And like, so getting feedback. Like I've taken stuff off the store before after realizing like this isn't a good product or getting too much negative feedback, because you learn from your mistakes basically, right?
Right.
Like
Mm-hmm.
it's got to be a high quality product and it's got to look good. And this is something I learned, is that if it's nice for me, it might not be nice for someone else, and vice versa. So I've
Mhm.
held off putting things in the store because I didn't really like the look of or the designs or the style. And then like people love them, right? And it's
Yeah.
like whose ice cream flavors is the best? One of those things.
Totally.
Is that like the ducky dice? Because I saw the ducky dice and I was like, that's such a unique sort of dice to put on there. And is that one you loved, or was that kind of like, oh man, the fans just
Everyone
totally
loves
want it?
that one. No one doesn't like that dice. No one. I've never
Yeah.
heard a bad thing about that one.
It's perfect. It goes with the duck adventure too.
That was the point, actually. Yeah. So if you buy that set, that adventure comes for free, included
Oh,
with it. because that's one of our best sellers. People always love that set, so we're like, oh, let's give an adventure with it.
Yeah, I think that's really a neat idea that you guys are doing that. Adventures and dice together and then they overlap with the theme. I really like that. Okay, so disclaimer, I am not I'm not a dice goblin. I have my like 6 sets of dice and I'm pretty happy. I mean, granted, I will see beautiful dice and go like I'll drool a little bit and then I'll just be like, "Okay, well that's nice." But I do see what you guys make and think like, "Wow, an adventure with it?" Ooh, that might be the extra little incentive I needed to actually buy these dice that I already thought were really cool.
When I was in sales, I always told people are emotional when they buy that way, and I
Totally.
think it's a great strategy.
Yeah.
That's definitely the point. On one end for sure, yeah. Because it's like when we started looking kind of at all the different stores, we couldn't find a single dice retailer that also sold adventures. Not one. I couldn't find one. Right. I went through all of them, and there's I'm sure there is some, but from what I was searching, I couldn't find one, and I was like, it just seemed crazy to me, honestly. I was like, why not? And that's Rory's specialty. Makes amazing adventures, and so we give them away for free with each order on the store. And it doesn't matter what you buy in the store. So you could buy an adventure and get another one for free, right? That sort of thing. And then that also is the kind of the leading point to new players.
Well, who else would be? I mean, there's really two types of people that tend to buy dice: dice goblins who never have enough dice, and people who are new to the game who need dice, right? So one of my core beliefs is that everyone loves D&D. They just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
However, I think it's so intimidating because you have to buy these big adventures that, go from like level 1 all the way to level 12 or 15 or 20, etc. And you have to read these like 3 books to be able to understand how to play, right? The Dungeon Master's Guide, and there's just so many pages. Whereas I really don't think you need all that to get started with D&D. You really just need, kind of like what you had even said in your first experience. You didn't even have a character sheet. You were just role playing and kind of playing in the game. And dice become a nice moderator for that. I think an effective dungeon master, if you're worried about like, oh, how do I get my friends into this? How I want to start playing? How do I get people into it? Get a one shot and just say we're having a board game night, and then like hand out a couple character sheets and just go.
Yeah, and bend the rules, right? Those books
Yeah.
they're a guideline, and so
Yeah.
are adventures, right? That's what we stress. Change anything you want as long as you're having a good time.
What are some advice if someone else wanted to get started in a D&D business? Like, what advice would you give them just starting out?
That's a hard question. Rory, what do you think?
I would say keep in mind, above all else, that this is a hobby for fun. I think it's really easy to get caught up in the weeds of D&D rules. The D&D community can sometimes be overwhelming. Just the breadth of professional DMs and players that now exist online, and that is great. It's excellent on the whole for the hobby, but it doesn't change the fact D&D is a hobby for fun. So if you're going to try to make money off of that, it doesn't have to be this big, professional, perfect business. It's just something that lets people have more fun or fun easier. Obviously, that's not really business advice.
That's great advice, actually.
is.
I would
Yeah.
just say, like, I'm like so glad that came out, because how easy is it to get? Because you are fostering people having fun. That is what this game does, and if you're not in alignment with that, it's going to be very hard to be successful in this market. I think that's really smart advice.
I think leading off of that, like one thing we also stress since the start is not making everything like perfect, hiding or like not swearing or using curse language. Like we try to be reserved, but we also like to have fun and poke with our emails, our blog posts, and some of our texts. Like we're people too.
Fucking right.
The
There you go.
Oh, man.
what I wanted to ask earlier was with that lens in mind of how this, this is a hobby, this is for fun, and that's, where we should come from when we're creating these businesses. Where do you see this business going?
What's in the future for Only Crits?
Yeah, we have a big announcement. We are creating a Only Crits official world that can be used and bent at your own discretion. And one of the coolest parts about the world is all of our one shots are going to have taken place inside of it. While we work on our one shots in the meantime, this kind of shaping it in the background designing it. This could take, a year, possibly more than that, if we want to make it hardcover and really, promote it,
Right.
possibly do a Kickstarter. It's something I've never even have no knowledge about, but it's just after, so many months, you kind of run out of ideas. Like, oh, what's something new and cool? And this is something that is, yeah, really special. And so, finding amazing artists to do
Mhm.
shots, it just, yeah, I'm very excited for this.
It's fun because there's a lot of, for lack of a better word, literature that are world books now, and being able to see what I like about them and what I don't like about them, and then tailoring the one that we're creating to be hopefully all stuff that at least we like. And as Eric was saying with Dice, it's no guarantee that everyone else is going to like it, but having the ability to do that has been amazing.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I was just gonna say that it's especially fun for people who have already been playing your adventures to learn that there's gonna be a bigger world on revealed, and they get to kind of see, oh my gosh, I remember in this other adventure I didn't even think that was going to come back, and here we are, we're seeing this setting again, this person again, this theme, this event again. I have noticed that specifically in one video game I play, Sea of Thieves, they do not give the lore out easily, and
Mm.
but when events start to change and they say, hey, that Flameheart guy, he's coming back, you're like, no way, that
Mhm.
guy, like, oh, I remember him from a while ago, oh my gosh. And that is pretty great for people who are already involved with your adventures, or people who pick up an adventure after listening to this, when that world is more revealed, and they will get to see it and remember those adventures already had.
One of the things also that we were talking about recently was keeping it also quite heavy with kind of assets that can be used by the dungeon master, because not every dungeon master is going to want to shape out of their world and take in a new one, right? So creating lots of different monsters and items and NPCs that can just kind of copy and paste into your own style is something we also are putting some effort into, I think, because we're trying to make it somewhat accessible to any type of dungeon master. If you've had a campaign going on for a while and it's something you want to pick up, you want some content in there that you might actually be able to implement into your game.
I was wondering if you two could go into a little bit of the nitty-gritty of marketing, because how people get started in a business is they got to get clients. And I'm curious for you guys getting started, like, because you said I go check the emails every day for orders and stuff. I'm curious, how does that actually happen?
So the biggest thing for us, and kind of what my most amount of experience and knowledge was marketing, and that's was specifically on Facebook and Instagram, and running ads on there. And that would be videos and photos, kind of, and having them promoted through Facebook and Instagram to get more eyes on them. And then branching out from there, reaching out to influencers on Instagram. When I got started, that was a big thing I did when I reached out to Chris, and I think in October, and 50 other people just like you. I think one of the biggest things when you're starting a business is you need to be okay with not getting responded to, because it's not going to happen 100% of the time. It's more likely going to happen 5 to 10% of the time. So, when I want to do a big kind of reach out to influencers, I'm going to reach out to a lot of them. And the ones that respond, I'm going to like hold on to. I'm so happy, right? It's hard when you're starting. You have no followers, you have nothing, you don't have anything to show for yourself. So why would someone want to work with you, talk to you, promote your products? You really have to reach out to a lot of people. And then the ones that do respond, you have to treat well, and you have to be respectful, and you have to be professional. Your emails need to be very, very well done. And then from there, after Instagram, recently we've branched to YouTube. So we've been working with a YouTuber named Bob World Builder recently. And he has amazing, funny, down to earth style of YouTube video, and I just love them.
He's great.
He's
Yeah,
great.
I watched Bob the Builder.
So
Yeah.
good.
Can we just say what his name is again? Bob the what?
Bob World Builder. So yeah, reaching out to YouTubers, and then creating a brand of your own. So that would be more Rory's style of work.
Yeah, when you guys have a fairly distinct brand from the logo all the way through like the visuals and stuff you do, like what are some of the things you did to decide on that branding, and maybe tell us a little bit more about what is your brand if you had to define it.
And I mean, it's hard to define a brand because especially, 2 years in is both a long time and a short time where it's like, and it's hard to sum up a brand without being able to see our images and our covers. But to that end, in terms of like the process we went through to build some of those things is almost from the inside. It's not disappointing, but it's a lot more practical than I thought branding was before we got into this. Right down to the URL. Like we had to get the URL for the website that we were going to sell our dice on, and that was a process of like, well, you have to buy the name, and names are different prices for websites. So we're not just going to buy dice.com even if it was available because it was going to be expensive. And so it's a trade-off between, oh, we think this is going to be memorable, unique, affordable, and that for the first little bit sort of carried through. I mean, Eric like designed our logo because he could, and because part of it was to keep it simple so that we would be remembered when people saw the logo. We're slowly and doing our best to build that out. I mean, we're really looking now to start to find artists that we can work with consistently and branch out so that it's not just the two of us doing everything. But I mean, it's an insubstantial thing to grab a hold of is brand. So it honestly means a lot just to hear you say that we do have a brand and you can see it, because it's like, oh, thank God, it all came together.
I think that Only Crits is fundamentally like a minimalistic dice company. From the website design, layout to the color scheme, I tried to keep everything very minimalistic. And a part of that is to stand out. Like a lot of other websites are quite busy. So I tried to make things simple in terms of the interface. So when you come to the site, you know what's going on. It's right there, and you can choose whatever you want. But it's not like you've got 50 different options. So one of them is just minimalism, and then the next thing is quality, keeping things very high quality. So you kind of have the aspect of a very professional brand, but then kind of on the back end, once you dig in a little deeper, then we're goofy and we have these silly adventures, and we send out emails that are quite funny. So kind of once you get into the rabbit hole a bit more, it develops. But on the front side, it is very minimalistic and professional. One other thing that's really important, I think that a lot of people forget when you're making a brand, is colors. You really want to stick to a color. And once you find it, whatever works, stick to it. For new business owners, it's not something very, very known or talked about. We picked purple, and it's been great. So we use white, black, and purple, and that's it. Very simple.
I love purple. I love using that as a royal kind of pop color.
And I'll just say that while we've talked to a number of other people who have their own nerdpreneur businesses, this color thing has been a common theme. I think about, Melody, who was the harpist doing Celtic and video game music. She's got a very distinctive, like, pink style to her vibe. And, you guys have the purple. And I know, like, when we were talking to Zephyr Games, they have a lot of ideas around colors for their board game that they were deciding on. And so I just think it's not something to take for granted that consistency with that stuff really makes a difference in keeping you recognizable. It's part of a brand that you have to be recognizable. And that visual aspect, especially on a medium like Facebook or Instagram, where you're placing ads, it has to be recognizable.
Especially when it's so busy, like you want it to pop up for like a millisecond and instantly know what it is. Like a lot of YouTubers will have the same style of thumbnail for that exact reason.
Do you design all your own Instagram ads, for example, like the ones that come up on the stories and things? Do you design all those?
Yep, pretty much all of it. Especially when we got started and the budget was very small. So like me designing the logo, like I don't know a lot of Photoshop, but I know enough to make that. And that helps with the simplicity, because I don't have to do something super complex as well. So it works hand in hand.
Right.
Yeah.
And then for the ads and kind of getting photos and videos, part of it's been me filming and taking photos, and then we've also worked with a bunch of awesome people throughout Vancouver. people that I know and people that I've hired as well. We have so many great photos and videos now with our dice bags, and then we use those and run ads.
So you would like hire, say, for example, a videographer to or a professional photographer to take shots of your dice or products, and then would you put it all together into an ad, or is that something that
I would put it together into an ad. That's correct.
I was just gonna say, like, I was gonna ask, what program are you using to design those ads?
Yeah, so for the video ads, I use a program called Animoto. And that's a simple drag and drop video files, photo files, and then a little bit of text. So it's really easy to use. It's nothing crazy like Premiere. Like you need to kind of have some understanding in Premiere to use it. Whereas this like drag and drop, very simple. And that's all I need as long as the shots are good, right? The most important thing is the photos of the dice.
What I love about what you're saying is that it doesn't have to be perfect for it to get started. I've heard this before, but scrappy is the new perfect. You know, like it just needs to be done and get moving, and then you can adjust as you kind of move out there and, as you said, make mistakes and grow and
Yeah,
learn from.
perfection is
Yeah.
the enemy of productivity. Do you guys have day jobs, or is this your whole gig?
This is my full-time job, and it has been since the pandemic started.
Same for you, Rory?
I was freelance writing. I still kind of am, but I've pared it way back because this has been doing well. So yeah, no, this is just about it.
Wow, that is I just want to like hold the phone and say that is awesome. That is crazy. I mean, you guys are you're almost on your 2-year anniversary here. And
Almost.
and
Yeah.
that is just you guys are, making a living. I mean, one of you's in Vancouver, British Columbia. That ain't cheap.
Yeah.
And you're making it work.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations, guys, because that's like awesome to see. And that's like I don't think we've met anyone that we've talked to yet that hasn't been like doing what they're doing passionately full time, and it's paying the bills and hopefully more, right? Like that's what's so awesome about the idea of following your passion, going after this and creating a nerdpreneur business.
And you guys are only at 2 years.
It's certainly a little bit of imposter syndrome. I mean, it's not like
Right.
it's nothing crazy, but it's weird.
No, I hear you, man. I mean, I think the imposter syndrome is everyone deals with that. I mean, there's a little bit of that we hear all over the place, and I mean, I'll admit I even feel that way, even in my day job.
When you tell people what you do, are they like shocked and surprised? They'll be like, "Wait, you sell dice? Like what? Or maybe write adventures?" Is it hard to explain that to people?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like a fun party trick that my girlfriend will be like, "Hey, Roy, tell them what you do." And at first it was like, "Oh, I'm a writer," and they're like, "Cool. What do you write?" And I was like, "Write tabletop role playing games." I mean, now I've stopped prefacing it with "I'm a writer" because that doesn't really get me anywhere. But no, it is weird. And some people, more than once, people have been like, "No way, we've been trying to get into D&D. Are you also a DM? Like, can you teach us?" Sometimes people are like, "That's weird. I've never heard of that." But it people are always pretty stoked that it's like, yeah, you're actually doing something that you're passionate about, which is crazy.
I can't believe how many people I run into now that look like they would have beat me up in high school and are now like, "Can I play D&D with you guys? Because it sounds really cool." Like I literally sat down with a guy outside of a bar the other day, smoking a J with him because we're in Vancouver, and it's basically he's got tattoos everywhere. He's a big guy, strong, and like he's like, "My girlfriend loves this thing called Critical Role. I know nothing about it. I really, really want to know more about it. Can you just like run a game, or can I come play at your like one of your D&D sessions sometime?" I'm like, dude, this is awesome. I love how big this whole industry is getting, and I really believe that it is on the rise because everyone loves D&D. They just don't know it yet.
Nice callback, Chris. Nice callback.
Hey, that's branding. Repetition. What's the worst advice you guys got when you said to people, "I'm going to start a dice company and we're going to start selling adventures and going into this D&D market"?
For me, in terms of advice, it's been strange because I was the first person to get into D&D and sort of ended up being a bit of a spreading it. And then when it turned into a business, I personally didn't have as much to do with the business as Eric did because he's been so excellent at setting up so much. And so it's hard to really, for me, pinpoint any bad advice. So I'm sorry I don't have much of an answer for that. Although I will say that one old adage that I've heard all over the place is don't go into business with friends, and that has been soundly proven untrue for us, thankfully. Because yeah, I mean, we've been, as Eric said, we've been friends since we're 5, and it's going great. So
That is great.
Awesome. Did you have any doubts, or did you have any people who were like, "Oh, that's not going to work"?
at the time, I was working. I had other forms of income, unsurprisingly. So because it was almost a side gig, and I didn't have to expect it to take off, which I think was helpful for me, especially because it was all I had to do was I could focus in on the writing. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm still surprised every day that we're able to pay ourselves a salary because there was absolutely doubts. Like, honestly, there's still tons of doubts. I mean, as you said, we're only 2 years in, so it's really hard to put together the fact that it was this weird idea 2 years ago, and now it's paying bills.
I did want to kind of give Eric a chance to answer that one.
I got down to right away and I worked hard. So there wasn't a lot of time for people to give me directly bad advice or kind of tell me what to do. Like I'm very like go, go, go. And I love listening to advice, but doubting myself and other people doubting me is always a hard one, especially for like my parents, for example. They can be like, well, you want something to fall back onto. And that was the biggest thing for the longest time for me because I've been trying out testing businesses, running ads and marketing, like I said earlier, for almost 4 years now. So it wasn't like I was able to quit my job at the beginning of this. I think that that is not a good idea, especially if you have bills to pay. I think that you should have something to hold on to when you're getting started, because I did full time. I was just working in the restaurant industry in Vancouver. But after things kind of started to get rolling, then I was able to. So there was kind of a lifeline I had. But when I got rid of that lifeline and I quit my job, that's when the doubts kind of increased because now, okay, if it doesn't work, I'm in trouble. But then at the same time, well, then I have to make it work.
Yeah.
So I will. And that's not great advice for a lot of people because you always hear about success stories where it works out, and those are great. I love to hear those. I love them. But you don't really hear about the success story or the failure stories where someone quit their job and they tried to do something and it failed.
Yeah.
Those aren't the motivational stories you hear. So I think that having a lifeline until you can kind of get a footing, right? Like when I quit my job, I wasn't perfect. I wasn't fully set. I wasn't ready to go, but I had a footing. Things were starting to work out.
I want to know, what was the day like you quit your job?
It was really great. Yeah, I loved it. I remember I was managing at a restaurant, and this was during the pandemic. So it was kind of like the perfect time to quit because a lot of people couldn't come into work. It wasn't like, oh, I'm leaving because I have something better to do, but we're like, hey, here's a great reason for me to leave because the pandemic's picking up and you guys don't really need me here right now because restaurants aren't open. So I kind of like just slowly slid out. And then they called me like, I guess a few weeks later and they were like, Eric, we're ready for you to come back to work now. And I was like,
whoa.
Oh, I don't know about that because my business is working.
The taste of sweet freedom.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I remember though walking in there that day and being like, okay, so how can I get out of here, but without making any enemies, just being very polite.
Yeah.
You don't want to leave and make bad blood ever. But yeah, it was amazing. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
First off, I just want to acknowledge, Rory, I think you said that your last day wasn't really a last day. You kind of phased out of the freelance and you went more into the writing that you currently do, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, the funny thing is I was freelancing writing D&D adventures. So there hasn't been really a reason to just cut that off entirely.
I see.
But it has been nice to focus on like, oh, this everything I'm writing is going towards our business and not someone else's playtime or whatever, So that has been great. But no, there wasn't the same satisfying quit
last day.
Yeah.
Rory's always been doing what he loved.
Yeah, and that's actually so cool.
Well, I mean, kind of, except when I graduated university, I realized I wanted to write, and then very quickly discovered that writing in the modern age is primarily blog posts and social media posts,
Yeah.
which is almost what I love doing. And so I enjoyed it while I did it, and I'm glad that now the blog posts I write are about D&D and not logistics and shipping.
What you said about you write and it gets to go towards your business, the modules you write. That is something Chris and I talk about, that where, gosh, like we always want to turn something we're working on into some sort of business. We've got this kind of, I don't know if it's an illness or what, but we are constantly plagued with this need to be productive towards a larger goal, some larger end. And you're doing it. You are achieving the passion of writing, and it's like, it's going towards the business.
Yeah, it's wild. It's super weird. And it's nice because like I have a feeling that it's a common theme, because I remember I started like whittling rings a few years ago, and I whittled a couple rings because it was fun and I liked working with wood, and then I was like, damn, these rings look good. I wonder if I can sell them on Etsy. And then I was like, why, whoa, I shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
This is a hobby. This is for fun.
Yes, yes.
And so I don't have to do that anymore. When I do stuff on my own time, great. And then all the D&D writing can go into the business.
Well, it's nice to know that it's not just Chris and I that have that, where we want to turn our newfound hobby that looks kind of cool into a money-making opportunity.
Well, how am I going to know I'm good if I don't make money at it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How do I know if someone's dollars don't support my pride around what I'm doing? That's true. Chris, did you have any other questions, or shall we?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, what are you especially nerdy about outside of your core business?
I am very nerdy about video games.
What are your choice video games?
Yeah, top 3.
I play a lot of on Steam, and I'm kind of like a very transient gamer. So I'll pick something up and play it for like 2 weeks, and then I'll move on. It's hard for me to pick top games, but like, some of the classics, like I love Minecraft. I always have since I was young. Newer games, I like DayZ. That's a fun game. And League of Legends, I played that a lot. Now I've been playing TFT recently.
Which one is that? TFT?
Team Fortress.
Thanks.
Fight Tactics, actually. It's a League of Legends kind of spin-off. It's auto chess.
Showing my
Auto
age there.
chess.
Oh, gotcha. Wow,
Yeah.
you are all over the map with these genres. I was expecting the crafting theme to carry over, and then you threw in League of Legends.
No, I really do like all sorts of video games. Like I think I on my Steam library about 110, 15 games.
I am also a Steam gamer, and I have to ask, since you've got the crafting itch, which I also do, have you explored a game called Icarus?
No, I think I've heard of it though, but I've never played it.
Yeah, I won't plug it too much right now. I just encourage you to check it out if you like crafting games, if you like sci-fi. It does a really good job of keeping, normally with Minecraft and games like Ark, you are very much dragged into the situation where you have to maintain all of your things that you've built in your whole base. But Icarus does a good job of saying you get 7 real days, 7 actual real life timed days, until you have to get back up off of the planet. So you get to craft for those 7 days, and then when you come back down later, all that's gone. But you get to start over, and that's great for me. So
Right.
wonder if you'll also find that interesting.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the last nerdy thing that's kind of new for me, also since the pandemic, was just kind of getting into chess and really getting into chess recently.
Do you play, what app do you play on?
I've played on all different sorts of stuff. Mostly is chess.com and Lee Chess though.
Yeah,
Those are the
I
two
was curious.
top
I
dogs.
play on Chess Time, so it's like no one I know uses Chess Time, but
I've never heard of it, so that makes sense.
No, I heard about it from a friend of mine who, like, I played him once and then I beat him like 3 times and he never played me again. So I just started playing with people who live in like Puerto Rico or something. I don't know. But there's one guy named Happy Hammer that literally I've had an ongoing game like for, I want to say 4 to 5 years now off of this. So I feel like I can't shift and leave this guy hanging.
That's a long time.
It's a long time, dude. Longer than most relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah, consistent back and forth games for like, and the problem I had with it was I loved playing chess, and then I would get like 4 or 5 games going, and then I just spent so much of my day playing chess. It was almost bad for productivity. So having the one consistent player who I know is going to kind of keep playing and is a decent challenge every time is like nice, because then if I feel like playing more, I can just after a game. But I keep it relegated a little bit.
Yeah, that I play more like faster time controls, so like 3 minutes and then the game's over.
What about you, Rory? What are you especially nerdy about outside of your core?
I mean, if we're counting my core being fantasy, because that does suck up a lot of my nerdiness, is books as well as D&D, then big history buff. I've been really enjoying getting into historical stuff. In the same vein, in terms of more recent nerdy stuff, I've really enjoyed getting into the nitty-gritty of Formula One recently.
Like the racing, like watching it and like getting into the drivers, or like how to like is that?
Yeah.
I know nothing about Formula One, so I don't even know
Totally
what question
fair.
to
And I
ask about
think
it.
no, I know. I don't know. Most people wouldn't consider people interested in Formula One as nerds, but I don't see the difference between a nerd about sports and a nerd about any other given thing. Fantasy.
100%. That is, yeah.
That's part of what Nerdpreneur is, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
But no, it's just a fascinating world, and it's again, it's a handful of extremely charismatic people who sort of pulled this stupidly dangerous activity into the modern mainstream, and that narrative has been fun to explore. Because then I watched cars go fast, and I was like, "That's cool. I like cars going fast." And then it was like, Why is this allowed?" And it's a weird story. So yeah, that's been fun recently.
If you had 1 million followers, what advice would you give them?
One big one that I said earlier, and I think has been one of the most important things that's helped me, was getting my stress behind me. That really just changed a lot for me. Was like not being afraid to achieve your goals, but being afraid to not achieve them. So you're being pushed towards your goals, right? Like when I sit down and I'm being lazy, I really don't feel good. Like I feel anxious. Whereas when I'm working now, I feel great. Like really good. Whereas when I was younger and I was in high school and stuff and I thought about goals and I thought about like out into the future, it just all scared me. All of it. And so I found a way to be like, that needs to get kind of behind you and working together with you. So it's not pushing you to be lazy, but it's actually pushing you to, I mean, whatever you want, really. That's difficult to do. It's not like if you want to like lay around all day. Okay, that's different. But if you truly want success in any domain, that stress that's kind of getting you out of bed in the morning and getting you off your ass when you're sitting down is going to help. And obviously, it can't be full amounts of stress all the time and create like medical student sort of high level stress. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just when you're being lazy or slacking off and having that thing kind of kick you in the ass and be like, hey, go get some work done because you can.
Shifting your perspective on stress
Right.
is so key, because you could be stressed out about achieving your goals, or you can be stressed out about not achieving them, right? And being able to know though that you control that dialogue.
Exactly. Yeah, that's my exact point.
Roy, did you have an answer for if you had 1 million followers? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I think I would say maintain optimism, and it doesn't need to be drastic, unyielding in the face of all other signs saying no optimism, but keeping in mind that, someone has to write the next great book, someone has to build the next great business, someone has to be the next DM, and why not you? And, it might not be, but you're never going to do the things you want to do unless you're at least a little bit optimistic about them working out.
Let's do the random roll, because I know we have a dice company here and you guys have dice to roll. We've got to make sure we get some rolls in here today.
This is what we kind of call our random rolls, our D100 roll. So questions that we're going to ask are going to be associated with the number that you roll. And these are less serious, bit more fun. So we did a bunch of business talk and, branding and whatnot. Now we're going to switch things over. So Rory, you look like you're ready. Would you mind just rolling that D100? We'll do this a couple times for each of you, but we'll just start off with Rory right now.
Can I say before we get going, we're actually now officially selling D100s?
Whoa, that's so cool.
Yeah, you can't see it, but it's a ball with 100 numbers on it.
So no more 2 D10s, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
You get to have one D100.
D10s are so confusing.
Yeah, we might roll for a while, so give it a minute.
That's all right.
We got 89.
Oh, this is a great one. What makes a great friendship stronger?
Oh, I would say communication, more than a necessary communication. If you're reaching out to a friend because you haven't talked in a while, that's nice. But when you're reaching out to a friend because you got something you want them to see or hear, then then that makes it stronger.
That's really great, given that the two of you have been friends before entering in on this business. That's quite
That was
wow,
synchronous. Like
quite
that
the
was a new
question.
question we added in like
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
last week or 2 weeks ago, and I was like,
yeah,
trust me, it's gonna be great. But it came up. That's awesome.
good,
Perfect.
nice. All right, Eric, go
All
ahead.
right, let's get it going. Here we go. So I have two.
You get to draft one mythical player for your football team.
A mythical player for my football team.
So it could be any like DC, Marvel, whatever, or anything.
How about Darth Vader?
Yeah, that would be great. Imagine Darth Vader. Wow, well, tell me why. Why Darth Vader for you?
He could use this to just pick everyone on the enemy team up, then I kick the ball and run it to the other side.
And if the refs complain,
You would have to kill them.
I mean, yeah, like no one's gonna stop Darth Vader. It's like
Yeah,
throat choke you or something.
yeah. Force choke you to death, and that'll be it.
Yeah, his lightsaber skills alone will make him a great defensive lineman.
Honestly, I mean, he could just be a great blocker for like a Tom Brady or something because he could probably hold back the entire line, or everyone would be too scared to cross the line.
That's what I was thinking as well.
I'm just surprised you put Tom Brady and Darth Vader on the same team. You were choosing potentially mythical sci-fi heroes and characters, and Tom Brady. I mean, I live in Seattle, okay? But Tom Brady.
He's practically a superhero. I'm just saying.
Are you saying he's a Jedi?
Don't you dare.
I don't know. I mean, he could be a Sith Lord. We don't know. I mean, he's vegan, so.
I didn't even know that.
Imagine how good Darth Vader would be at throwing the ball. You just throw it all the way to the end every time. No issues.
Darth Vader versus Tom Brady, I'd watch that though.
I wouldn't pay HBO for the subscription. Well, thank you for entertaining us. Well, let's move on to rapid fire.
What would be your superpower if you could pick one?
Yeah, it's so basic, but I mean, it's because it's the best.
It's
Come
a great
on,
one. It is.
And probably I would like to not suffocate while I fly around would be good as well.
Of course, you're probably not that high up.
Well, maybe I want to go that high up.
I mean, that's a great thing about flying. You can get to the atmosphere. So
just take a scuba suit.
Yeah.
Okay, Star Trek or Star Wars?
Between Star Wars and Star Trek, I would pick personally Star Wars.
All right.
That's okay.
It's fine.
You want me to leave now?
No, it's okay. I mean, we've got to have a good balance in this Earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A little bit of variety.
The two. Same for you, Rory. Star Trek or Star Wars?
Both.
What? Both.
They're different things. It's actually funny. I got a relevant story for this.
Sweet.
Really to draw out this quick question. We had Fan Expo in Vancouver recently, and I very fortunately got to see William Shatner speak, which was he's a little rambly now, but still very inspiring guy.
Yep.
Yeah. And Canadian.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly. And someone asked him, "Would you support a Star Wars and Star Trek crossover?" And he was like, "Star Wars is fantasy. It's in space, but it's just a mythological tale. Star Trek is trying to be based off of technology. It's stories about humans." And I was like, "That's actually it's pretty right.
That's pretty good."
Yeah. And I was like, "Well, I like both of those things. So why can I say anything other than both? They're both great."
Who shot first, Han or Greedo?
Han. I think it's a false memory of watching an original cut of Star Wars when I was like crazy young on a VHS that we then lost, which might be wrong. But no, I gotta say Han.
Goblins or kobolds?
Ooh, that's fun. I have used kobolds more in my games. But to be fair, I don't think I've fully comprehended the usefulness of goblins until a little more recently. And kobolds, some of them can fly, and that's really fun. I often have kobolds tied to people on the ground, which has been an avenue for hilarity.
3 favorite pizza toppings?
Olives, onions, bacon.
We haven't had any of those on here yet.
Really?
No.
Yep.
That's great.
It's been a lot of pineapple pizza people.
I do like pineapple on pizza, but top 3? No, it's down the list somewhere.
Did you ever watch the Firefly series first off?
Yes,
Was it
definitely.
overrated or underrated?
I mean, I think it's hard to call it overrated nowadays because it's turned into the whole cult. It's a mainstream statement that it was canceled too soon.
Who's your favorite Star Trek captain?
I have to go with Picard, again, with my limited knowledge of Star Trek. If I wanted to serve under a captain, I think it would be Picard.
Okay. Eric, favorite, or sorry, maybe not your favorite, but your go-to karaoke song.
Oh, man. Okay, Rory, you go ahead. I need some time to think.
I love the
one that
pass
I
of the
don't
buck there. It's like,
Yeah.
you take this one.
I don't do karaoke all that much.
Well, especially
So-
nowadays.
Yeah, well, exactly.
It's a lost art from pre-COVID times.
So the key, I believe, is to get one that everyone inevitably ends up singing along to, which I think for me would be Bohemian Rhapsody. I
Classic.
feel like everyone's got to sing along to that one.
Yeah,
So get the crowd in on it.
Going off of that, I think mine, and I saw a good friend once, would be Brown Eyed Girl.
Ooh, another classic karaoke tune. Awesome.
Yeah. I'm surprised. You know, I always feel like It's Getting Hot in Here is going to be the top of the list for people. You know, everyone knows that song. They can sing along to it.
Oh yeah, but nobody wants karaoke people to take off all their clothes. I'm just not gonna lie. I used to go to karaoke in Ottawa, and if you're a regular there, keep them on.
Nah, don't need that. Okay, gotcha.
All right, how many cats are too many cats?
3.
Yeah, I agree with that. I wanted to do, Eric, the 3 games or books, if you wanted to, just since we talked about games, that you find have brought you a lot of value.
So I put Minecraft on there. And then I think another one
Okay.
that has been fun for me recently is chess. We talked about.
Right.
And the last one, not sure. I sunk a lot of hours into DayZ, though. That's a zombie survival game, and it was quite a bit of fun.
Yeah, especially with a group of people, I'm sure.
Yeah.
For you, Rory, what are your top 3 books?
So I have to go with The Hobbit at number 1. I just like D&D struggle to get into the Lord of the Rings series, which is why I'm not putting one of them at the top. But no, Hobbit, perfect book. The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie, which that whole series, and I haven't gotten to the second trilogy yet, unfortunately, but that first trilogy by Joe Abercrombie is just marvelous. So read them all. And then now I gotta pick one for third because I thought I was doing 5, but that's totally fine. You know, Brandon Sanderson, people have very strong opinions about. And I love George R.R. Martin, but he hasn't finished his series, and Sanderson's finishing his series, and so I gotta go with The Way of Kings, which is the first book in Stormlight Archives, which is so good. So good. A little formulaic for sure, and if you don't like Sanderson, understandable, but it's just been so impressive and influential for me, Sanderson's work, and it started with The Way of Kings, so I'm gonna put him in number 3.
Nice. Can I ask, you had 2 more on the list. Are either one of them Dune?
Oh, I didn't even think of Dune. Well, now it probably would be. Except, maybe not, just because, just like with The Lord of the Rings, it's a pretty dense book. If you take the book as the book, maybe not.
I love Dune, and I agree. It's Frank Herbert as a writer is sort of hard because he changes perspective like mid-page, you know, like one paragraph is from one person's perspective, next one is from a different person's perspective, and he doesn't give you any context for that. So I find it actually kind of difficult to read and until you understand that about his writing. But the ideas, the stuff that's in there, the ideas and the complexity, I mean...
100%, yeah. Jaw-dropping moments in that book are for sure jaw-dropping.
Yeah. It makes you think that the sequel to Dune is going to be like Dune 2.0, and you're like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, I have to admit, in that vein, I have not finished the sequel yet. I started it and I haven't finished it.
It's been about 8 years. I also haven't finished it.
I know. I hate myself for it too, but it's just it's different.
Yeah, Dune Messiah is difficult.
It's
difficult.
It's crazy that you mentioned the Blade Blade Within, the Blade
Itself.
The Blade Itself and the Stormlight Archive series, because those were, I had a friend that I recently asked for some book recommendations, and those were the 2 at the top of his list next to the Kingkiller Chronicles.
Yeah, and that was number 4.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Thank you. I mean, I'm sure that our listeners will find some value in those books if they have not listened or if they have not read those already or listened, actually. Nowadays people are listening a lot to these books.
Well, thank you so much, guys. This has been so awesome. And
Yeah.
where can people find you, support you, and buy some adventures and dice from you?
Yeah, so you can find us at onlycrits.com. And you can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Those are our social media outlets at onlycritsco on Instagram, onlycrits on Twitter, and Facebook if you search that.
Also TikTok now.
And also TikTok that Rory's been getting into, yeah. We're
We're
officially on TikTok. And use code EPIC for 12% off your next dice set at onlycrits.com.
Awesome. Yeah.
Nice.
Anything else we got? Any final words from you, Frank? Or, I mean, we are still figuring out our sign off. What should we do to sign off? Keep it nerdy?
If there is one final takeaway.
Yeah, follow your passion and work hard, but don't lose your lifeline.
And be optimistic.
And thank you so much for having us on. That was amazing.
Seriously, thank
really
you.
Appreciate it.
It was great.
Keep it nerdy. Keep it nerdy. Keep it real nerdy.
Thank you for listening to Nerdpreneur. Be sure to subscribe wherever you found us and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Every review helps our show grow. You can follow and chat with us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Nerdpreneur Podcast. Nerdpreneur is a labor of passion, and Chris and I would love to keep this thing going. So if you want us to continue making content, you can support us by going to patreon.com/nerdpreneur and become a member of the board. Members of the board get shoutouts, they can submit rapid fire questions, they get behind the scenes peeks, and we record super fun and valuable content exclusive to our board members. We love all of you nerds. Keep it nerdy.
Nerdpreneur, you know I love my work. Life's a game, so I'ma take my turn. Nerds deserve to put the passion first, so let them rap a verse so they can all be heard.